Cancel your wedding. Go to his mother's house now. My deceased grandmother screamed in my dream the night before my rehearsal dinner. I drove there shaking. But when I saw who walked out the back door wearing my fiancé's shirt, I fell to my knees. Hello everyone. Thank you for being here with me today. Before I begin my story, I'd love to know which city you're joining us from. Please feel free to share in the comments. Now, let me take you into this story. I was standing behind a cluster of overgrown oleander bushes, the rain soaking through my thin pajamas and the trench coat I had thrown over them. My hands were shaking so violently that I had to grip a branch just to keep my balance. The Houston humidity usually made the air feel like a warm blanket, but at 4 a.m, with the storm rolling in off the Gulf, it felt like a cold, wet shroud. I shouldn't be here. I should be in my warm bed, next to Trent, dreaming about our wedding which was only 3 weeks away. But Trent wasn't in our bed. And thanks to the dream that had jolted me awake with my heart hammering against my ribs, neither was I. Cancel the wedding. Go to his mother's house now. The voice had been so clear, so piercing, it wasn't just a dream. It was a visitation. Nana Rose, my grandmother who had passed away 2 years ago, stood at the foot of my bed in my nightmare. Her face wasn't the peaceful, smiling face I remembered from her final days. It was twisted in terror and rage. She was screaming at me, pointing a gnarled finger toward the door. Go, Mallory. Run. Go to Loretta's house. See the truth before you sign your life away. I woke up gasping, sweat mingling with tears. The empty space beside me in bed was the first sign. Trent had said he needed to stay late at his office to finalize some investment portfolios for a client in Europe. He said he wouldn't be home until dawn. I had believed him. I always believed him. He was the charming, hard-working man who had swept me off my feet when I was drowning in grief after Nana's funeral. But you don't ignore a warning from Nana Rose. She was the only person in my family who had ever truly seen me, the only one who didn't look at me and see a bank account or a servant. So, I drove. I drove through the deserted streets, running 2 red lights, guided by a knot of dread in my stomach that tightened with every mile. And now, here I was. Outside my future mother-in-law's house. Loretta's house was dark, save for the porch light that flickered ominously. My car was parked 2 blocks away, hidden behind a dumpster. I had crept through the neighbor's yard like a criminal. Suddenly, the back door of Loretta's house creaked open. I held my breath. Trent stepped out onto the patio. He wasn't wearing his business suit. He was wearing sweatpants and a t-shirt, looking relaxed, looking at home. He wasn't alone. A woman stepped out behind him. She was wearing a hoodie, pulled up to obscure her face, but she was clinging to his arm with a familiarity that made bile rise in my throat. This wasn't a client. This wasn't business. Trent leaned down and kissed her. It wasn't a quick peck on the cheek. It was deep, lingering, possessive. He whispered something in her ear that made her giggle, a sound that carried on the damp wind. Go on, babe, Trent said, his voice low but audible in the silence of the night. Mallory is asleep. She's so medicated on those allergy pills I gave her, she wouldn't wake up if a marching band went through the bedroom. The woman pulled back her hood to fix her hair before running to her car parked in the shadows of the detached garage. I froze. My knees hit the mud. It wasn't a stranger. It wasn't some random woman from a bar. The street lamp caught the side of her face, illuminating the sharp nose and the blonde highlights I had paid $200 for just last week as a treat for her duties as my maid of honor. It was Jolene. My best friend since the 10th grade. The woman who was supposed to hold my bouquet while I said my vows. I watched, paralyzed, as Jolene climbed into her car, the car I had helped her make the down payment on when she lost her job last year. She blew Trent a kiss and backed out of the driveway. I wanted to scream. I wanted to run out there and claw his eyes out. But then Trent took out his phone and made a call. He stayed on the porch, lighting a cigarette. I didn't even know he smoked. Yeah, she's gone, Trent said into the phone, his voice changing from lover boy soft to something cold and hard. Make sure she takes the vitamins. I don't want any complications with the pregnancy. We need to keep her happy until the house is signed over. After the wedding, well, we can deal with the extra baggage then. Pregnancy? Vitamins? House. The world tilted on its axis. I wasn't just being cheated on. I was being hunted. If you are listening to this, and you've ever felt that gut instinct screaming at you to run, please, for the love of God, listen to it. I'm Mallory, and I wish I could tell you I stormed in there and ended it all right then. But I didn't. I stayed in the mud, letting the rain wash over me, realizing that the man I loved wasn't just a cheater. He was a monster. And he wasn't working alone. Before I tell you what I found in the trash can that changed everything, I need to tell you how I got here. How a smart woman, a pharmacist who deals with details for a living, missed the red flags the size of Texas. I crawled back to my car, my body shaking so hard I couldn't get the key into the ignition for a full minute. I didn't turn on the headlights. I just sat there, slumped over the steering wheel, trying to remember how to breathe. The image of Jolene's face and Trent's hand on her waist was burned into my retinas. My phone buzzed in the cup holder. A text from Trent. Hey beautiful, just finished up. Heading home now. Don't wait up, get your beauty sleep. Love you. I stared at the screen, reading the lie that I would have smiled at yesterday. Now, the words looked like venom. How did I get here? I'm 32 years old. I'm a pharmacist. I have a degree. I handle complex chemical compounds and life-saving medications every single day. I'm not stupid. But as I sat in the dark, shivering in my damp clothes, I realized that intelligence has nothing to do with being blind to betrayal. I have always been the giver. In every family, there's usually one. The one who remembers birthdays, the one who organizes the funerals, the one who loans money knowing they'll never see it again. That's me. My sister, Cassidy, was the taker. She was the golden child, the baby, the one with the bright smile and the empty promises. My parents treated Cassidy like a fragile ornament that needed to be protected, while I was the sturdy shelf expected to hold everything up. When Nana Rose died 2 years ago, she left everything to me. Not to my parents, and definitely not to Cassidy. Nana Rose knew. She saw how they drained me. She left me her house, a beautiful, sprawling Victorian home in the historic district that had been in our family for 3 generations. It was fully paid off. It was my sanctuary. Mallory, Nana had told me on her deathbed, gripping my hand with surprising strength. This house is your shield. Don't let them take it. Not your parents, not Cassidy, and not any man who doesn't worship the ground you walk on. I should have listened to the second part of that advice more carefully. Trent appeared right after the funeral. He was charming, attentive, and seemingly wealthy. He drove a leased BMW and wore suits that fit too perfectly. He told me he was an investment broker. He listened to me cry about Nana. He bought me flowers not just on holidays, but on random Tuesdays. For a woman who had spent her life feeling like a utility bill, necessary but unloved, Trent felt like a miracle. He moved in 6 months later. And slowly, subtly, the dynamic shifted. He had cash flow issues with his investments. His assets were frozen pending a merger. I started covering the utilities. Then the groceries. Then his car lease. It's just temporary, babe, he would say, kissing my forehead. Once this deal closes, I'm buying you a castle. You're my investment. And Jolene? I had known her since high school. She was the sister I wished Cassidy was. Or so I thought. When she got laid off from her reception job, I hired her to help organize the wedding. I paid her a generous salary out of my savings. I thought I was helping a friend. I didn't realize I was funding my own destruction. Sitting in that car, the pieces of the puzzle started slamming together. Trent's constant questions about the deed to Nana's house. Jolene's sudden interest in how much the property was worth. The way they both encouraged me to distance myself from my toxic parents, isolating me. I realized with a sick lurch of my stomach that I wasn't a fiancé to Trent. I was a retirement plan. I was a golden goose they were planning to slaughter. The rain began to let up, but the storm inside me was just beginning. Trent's words from the porch echoed in my mind, "We need to keep her happy until the house is signed over." He thought I was the naive, pill-popping pharmacist who would sign anything he put in front of her. He thought I was weak. And to be honest, for a long time, I was. I was weak because I wanted to be loved so badly I was willing to pay for it. But Nana Rose didn't raise a fool. She raised a survivor. I wiped the tears from my face with the back of my cold hand. I wasn't going home. Not yet. Trent had mentioned vitamins and pregnancy. I needed to know exactly what I was dealing with. I looked back at Loretta's house. The lights were still off. Trent had left. Loretta, his mother, was likely asleep. Or so I hoped. I opened the car door. I wasn't going to crawl back into bed and pretend everything was fine. I was going to dig. Literally. I walked back toward the house, heading straight for the large plastic trash cans lined up on the side of the garage. It was trash day tomorrow. If there were secrets, they were in there, wrapped in black plastic, waiting for me. The smell of wet garbage and rotting food hit me before I even lifted the lid, gagging me slightly. But I swallowed the nausea down. I had to know. I pulled a small flashlight from my keychain, a promotional trinket from a pharmaceutical rep, and shined it into the abyss of Loretta's waste. I felt like a raccoon, scavenging through someone else's filth, but dignity was a luxury I could no longer afford. The first bag was mostly kitchen scraps, coffee grounds, and empty wine bottles. Loretta loved her Chardonnay. I dug deeper, ignoring the slime that coated my fingers. The second bag felt different. It was lighter. I tore it open, trying to be as quiet as possible. Inside, amidst receipts and junk mail, I found a crumpled CVS pharmacy bag. My heart skipped a beat. I pulled it out and looked inside. Empty boxes. Prenatal vitamins. Folic acid. And underneath those, a small, white box for a digital pregnancy test. I fished around the bottom of the bag and found the test itself, wrapped in a paper towel. 2 pink lines. Positive. Jolene was pregnant. The timeline in my head spun. Trent had been working late a lot for the past 3 months. Jolene had been complaining about stomach bugs and gaining weight, which she blamed on stress. It wasn't stress. It was my fiancé's baby. My hand trembled, dropping the test back into the bag. But there was something else. A thick envelope, ripped in half. I grabbed the pieces and held them under the weak beam of my flashlight. It was a legal document. A draft. I recognized the legal jargon immediately. I dealt with contracts and insurance paperwork all the time. Quitclaim deed. Grantor, Mallory Jenkins. Grantee, Trent Miller and Loretta Miller. My blood ran cold. It wasn't just a marriage license they were after. They were drafting a deed to transfer my house, Nana Rose's house, not to us as a married couple, but to Trent and his mother. And on the margins of the paper, in Trent's handwriting, were practice signatures. He wasn't practicing his own signature. He was practicing mine. He was trying to perfect the loop of the M and the sharp slant of the J. This wasn't just gold digging. This was fraud. This was a conspiracy. Suddenly, the kitchen light above me flicked on. I ducked behind the trash cans, pressing myself into the wet brick wall, holding my breath. The window slid open. I heard the unmistakable rasp of Loretta's voice. She was an early riser, usually up before the sun to manage her investments, which I now realized probably meant plotting crimes. I know, Loretta was saying, her voice clear in the morning air. She was on the phone. Trent is on his way back to her now. He said Jolene was being emotional. Hormones, obviously. Pause. Yes, I told him to make sure Mallory signs the prenup waiver today. We can't have her protecting that inheritance. My heart hammered so loud I was sure she could hear it. But then she said something that made the world stop completely. Don't worry, sweetie. Once the house is ours, you'll get your cut. You just need to keep playing the bratty little sister. Keep her distracted with your drama so she doesn't focus on the finances. Loretta laughed, a dry, cracking sound. I know you want the Paris trip. You'll get it. Just make sure Mom and Dad stay on your side and keep pressuring her to sell the stocks for your wedding gift. Trent has it under control. Okay, Cassidy. Go back to sleep. Cassidy. The ground seemed to dissolve beneath my feet. It wasn't just Trent. It wasn't just Jolene. It wasn't just Loretta. It was my own sister. My baby sister, Cassidy. The one I had walked to kindergarten. The one whose tuition I was still paying off. She wasn't just a spoiled brat. She was an accomplice. She was helping them rob me blind. They were all in on it. A pack of wolves, and I was the sheep they had been fattening up for slaughter. I waited until Loretta closed the window and the light turned off. I didn't cry this time. The tears had dried up, replaced by a cold, hard rage that settled in my chest like a stone. I took the torn deed draft and the receipt for the pregnancy test. I shoved them into my pocket. These were my first weapons. I crawled back to my car, dirty, smelling of garbage, and utterly alone. But as I turned the key in the ignition, I realized something. They thought they were dealing with Mallory the doormat. Mallory the people-pleaser. Mallory the victim. They didn't know that Mallory the pharmacist knows exactly how to mix poisons. They didn't know that I handle toxicity for a living. I drove away from Loretta's house as the sun began to break over the horizon. I wasn't going home to confront Trent yet. I needed to see the final piece of the betrayal with my own eyes. I needed to see Cassidy. I drove straight to my parents' house. It was a modest ranch-style home in the suburbs, the house I grew up in, the house where I learned that love was conditional. If I got straight A's, I was ignored. If Cassidy got a C-, they threw a party for her effort. I parked in the driveway. It was 7 a.m. My parents would be up, drinking coffee, watching the morning news. I used the spare key and let myself in. Mallory? My mother's voice came from the kitchen. She sounded annoyed, not concerned. What are you doing here so early? You look terrible. Look at your hair. I walked into the kitchen. My mother was in her robe, stirring sugar into her coffee. My father was reading the paper. Neither of them got up to hug me. I couldn't sleep, I said, my voice raspy. Wedding stress. Well, don't stress too much, my father grumbled without looking up. You're lucky Trent puts up with your anxiety. He's a good man. A provider. A provider. The irony tasted like blood in my mouth. Trent provided nothing but lies, funded by my bank account. Just then, Cassidy walked into the kitchen. She looked fresh, rested, and glowing with youth. She was wearing a silk pajama set that cost more than my weekly salary, a set I knew I had bought her for Christmas. But it wasn't the pajamas that caught my eye. It was what was glittering around her neck. A delicate, white gold chain with a solitaire diamond pendant. I stopped breathing. 2 weeks ago, Trent had come home distraught. He told me he had bought a diamond necklace for his mother, Loretta, as a thank you gift for helping with the wedding planning. He showed me the photo of it. He said it had been stolen from his gym locker. I had comforted him. I had even offered to give him money to replace it, which he reluctantly accepted. That stolen necklace was currently resting on my sister's collarbone. "Nice necklace," I said, pointing at it. My finger didn't shake. "Is that new?" Cassidy's hand flew to her neck, covering the diamond. Her eyes darted to our mother, then back to me. "Oh, this?" "Yeah. It's a gift. From my new boyfriend. The one I told you about. The oil guy." "The oil guy," I repeated flatly. "The one we've never met? The one without a name?" "He's private." Cassidy snapped, her face turning pink. "God, Mallory, why do you always have to interrogate me? Just because you're jealous that I get nice things effortlessly while you have to work your boring job." "Cassidy, don't be rude to your sister," my mother chided gently, but there was no heat in it. She turned to me. "Mallory, really? You should be happy for her. It's a beautiful piece. Speaking of gifts, have you thought about what we discussed? The Paris trip?" I stared at them. The Paris trip. For Cassidy's graduation present, my father chimed in. "She's been through so much stress with school. She needs a break. We were hoping you could advance her the money. You know things are tight for us right now, and with that big house Nana left you. And you have Trent now," Cassidy added, a smirk playing on her lips as she fingered the stolen diamond. "He's loaded. I'm sure he wouldn't mind if you helped your family out. He told me just yesterday that family is everything to him." She emphasized the word yesterday. The conversation I overheard at Loretta's house replayed in my mind. "Trent has it under control. You'll get the Paris trip." They were all feeding off me. My parents were enabling her, using my inheritance as their personal piggy bank, and Cassidy was sleeping with my fiancé while wearing jewelry bought with my money. I looked around the kitchen. The floral wallpaper, the chipped mugs, the people who were supposed to be my safe harbor. There was no love here. Only expectation. Only hunger. "I'll think about it," I said, lying through my teeth. "I have to go. Trent is waiting." "Make sure you apologize to him for running off," my mother called after me. "You don't want to lose a catch like that." I walked out the door, the sound of the latch clicking behind me feeling like the final seal on a tomb. I was completely alone. My parents, my sister, my fiancé, my best friend. Everyone I loved was holding a knife behind their back. I got into my car and locked the doors. I screamed. A silent, guttural scream that shredded my throat. Then I pulled down the visor and looked at myself in the mirror. My eyes were red, my skin was pale, but my jaw was set. "You want a catch, Mother?" I whispered to the empty car. "I'll give you a catch. I'm going to catch them all." I put the car in drive. It was time to go home and face the wolf in my bed. I parked my car down the street from our townhouse, well, my townhouse, though Trent liked to call it ours. I waited until I saw the bathroom light turn on upstairs. That meant Trent was in the shower. I let myself in. The house smelled like fresh coffee and bacon. Trent was playing the role of the doting partner perfectly. He had set the table for breakfast. A single red rose in a vase. A note that said, "Good morning, my love. Sorry I worked so late. Let's make today amazing." It was sickening. A stage set for a play where I was the fool. I walked up the stairs, my steps silent on the carpet. I could hear the shower running. I slipped into the bedroom. His clothes from the office, the sweatpants and t-shirt I saw him in earlier, were in the hamper. On the bedside table sat his phone. Trent was paranoid about his phone. He claimed it was client confidentiality, but now I knew better. He changed his passcode every month. But Trent was also arrogant. He didn't think I was watching. Last week, I had seen him unlock it. 2-5-8-0, a straight line down the keypad. Lazy. I picked it up. My hands were sweating. I punched in the code. Unlocked. I didn't have much time. I went straight to WhatsApp. There was a chat thread pinned to the top named the A-Team. I clicked it. The participants were Trent, Jolene, Cassidy, and Loretta. I scrolled back to last night. Trent, 3:45 a.m. The Eagle has landed. Jolene is gone. Mallory is still out cold. This stuff works wonders. Jolene, 3:48 a.m. Ugh, I hate sneaking around. I want to be the one in that house, Trent. My back is killing me. The baby is kicking. Cassidy, 3:50 a.m. Stop whining, Joe. You're getting the penthouse after the settlement. I just want my trip. And the necklace fits perfectly, by the way. Thanks, T. Loretta, 4 a.m. Focus, everyone. The wedding is in 3 weeks. We need her to sign the irrevocable trust documents on Friday. Tell her it's for tax purposes. Trent, 4:02 a.m. She'll sign. She trusts me implicitly. Once we're married, the spousal rights kick in. If something unfortunate happens to her on the honeymoon, the house and the life insurance are 100% ours. Yvonne, lawyer, 4:05 a.m. Just make sure the accident looks genuine. Hiking trails in Hawaii are dangerous. Slippery cliffs. I nearly dropped the phone. They weren't just planning to steal my money. They were planning to kill me. If something unfortunate happens, slippery cliffs. They were going to marry me, take the house, and then push me off a cliff in Maui. I felt the blood drain from my face. This was no longer a drama. This was a matter of life and death. The shower water stopped. Panic surged through me. I quickly closed the app, wiped the screen on my shirt to remove my fingerprints, and placed it back exactly where it was. I threw myself into bed, pulling the covers up to my chin, squeezing my eyes shut. The bathroom door opened. I smelled the steam, the expensive cologne I had bought him for his birthday. I felt the mattress dip as he sat down beside me. Mallory, he whispered, stroking my hair. Wake up, sleepyhead. I forced my eyes open, feigning a groggy waking. I looked into the eyes of the man who was planning my murder. They were blue, clear, and terrifyingly empty of humanity. Hey, I croaked. I don't feel well. Ah, poor baby, he cooed, leaning down to kiss me. I flinched, turning my head so his lips landed on my cheek. The smell of Jolene's perfume still lingered faintly on his skin, masked by the soap. Is it the allergies? Yeah, I lied. And my stomach. I think I need to stay in bed today. But we have the dress fitting with Jolene and Cassidy later, he said, a flicker of annoyance crossing his face before he smoothed it over. They're counting on you. I'll be there, I said, sitting up. I just need a few hours. Okay, he stood up, flashing that $1 million smile. I'll make you some tea. I love you, Mel. Love you too, I said. The words tasted like ash. As he walked out of the room, I knew I couldn't just run. If I ran, they would chase me. If I called the police now, they would claim it was a joke, or worse, destroy the evidence before I could secure it. I needed help. I needed someone who knew how to handle scum like this. I remembered a name Nana Rose had mentioned years ago. An old friend of hers. A retired cop who became a private investigator. Hank. I waited until Trent went downstairs to make the tea, which I definitely wasn't going to drink. I pulled out my own phone and searced for him. Hank Miller, Private Investigations. I sent a text. Nana Rose's granddaughter needs you. It's a matter of life and death. Then I got up. I had to get ready for the dress fitting. I had to face Jolene and Cassidy. I had to look them in the eye and smile, knowing they were plotting my funeral. I locked the bathroom door and turned on the faucet to drown out any sound. I sank onto the cold tile floor, hugging my knees to my chest. The reality of the text messages was crashing down on me. Hiking trails. Accidents. For a moment, I considered just packing a bag and disappearing. I could sell the house remotely, move to another state, change my name. I could be safe. But then I looked up at the mirror. I saw the fear in my eyes, yes. But I also saw something else. I saw Nana Rose's jawline. I saw the stubborn set of my chin that used to annoy my mother so much. If I ran, they won. They would find another victim. Trent would find another lonely woman to exploit and murder. Jolene would raise that baby on blood money. Cassidy would continue to be a parasite. I couldn't let that happen. I stood up and splashed cold water on my face. I walked out of the bathroom and went into the spare room, the room I had kept exactly as Nana Rose liked it. It was my prayer room, my sanctuary. It smelled of lavender and old books. I knelt by the window seat where Nana used to read to me. Nana, I whispered into the silence. I don't know if I can do this. They are so many, and I am just one. I closed my eyes. I remembered the dream. Her screaming. Go! But now, in the quiet of the morning, I felt a different presence. A warmth settled over my shoulders, like a heavy quilt on a winter night. I remembered Nana's stories about her own life. How she had rebuilt her fortune after Granddad died, leaving her with debt. How she had faced down bankers and lawyers who tried to take this very house. She hadn't been nice. She had been smart. She had been ruthless when she needed to be. Mallory, her voice seemed to echo in my mind, not screaming this time, but firm. Tears are for grieving. Action is for living. You are the pharmacist. You know the antidote. Give them a taste of their own medicine. I opened my eyes. The trembling in my hands had stopped. My phone buzzed. It was Hank. Meet me at the diner on 4th in an hour. Come alone. Don't let him follow you. I took a deep breath. I walked back into the bedroom, dressed in my sharpest blazer and jeans. I applied my makeup carefully, hiding the dark circles, painting on a mask of confidence. When I went downstairs, Trent was in the kitchen, scrolling on his phone. He looked up, surprised to see me dressed. I thought you were sick. I took some meds, I said, grabbing my purse. I'm feeling better. I'm going to run a few errands before the fitting. I need to pick up feminine products. Trent flinched slightly. He hated anything to do with women's biology. It was the perfect excuse. Oh. Okay. Do you want me to drive you? No, I said, breezing past him. I need some air. I'll see you later. I walked out the door without looking back. I felt his eyes on me. I knew I was walking a tightrope. One slip, one wrong look, and the accident might happen sooner than the honeymoon. But I wasn't the prey anymore. I was the bait. And I was about to lead them all into a trap they would never escape. The diner on 4th Street was a relic of the past, smelling of grease and stale coffee. Hank was sitting in a booth at the back, facing the door. He looked older than I remembered from the funeral. His hair was completely white now, his face lined like a roadmap of hard years, but his eyes were sharp, scanning everyone who walked in. I slid into the booth opposite him. He didn't smile. He just pushed a manila folder across the sticky table. You were right to call me, Hank grunted. Your boy isn't who he says he is. I opened the folder. The first photo wasn't of Trent. It was a mugshot of a man who looked like a younger, rougher version of him. Name's Mark Sullivan, Hank said, taking a sip of black coffee. Or at least, that was his name in Florida 5 years ago. Also goes by David Thorne in Arizona. Trent Miller is just the latest skin he's wearing. I flipped through the pages. Police reports. Restraining orders. Bankruptcy filings. He targets women with inheritances, Hank explained, his voice low. He finds the ones who are grieving, lonely, or estranged from their families. He sweeps them off their feet, gets access to the accounts, transfers the assets, and then vanishes. Or worse. Worse? I asked, though I already knew. His second wife in Arizona died of an overdose. Ruled accidental, but her family never believed it. She had just signed a heavy life insurance policy. I felt a chill that had nothing to do with the diner's air conditioning. He's planning to kill me, Hank. In Maui. On our honeymoon. Hank's jaw tightened. How do you know? I saw the group chat. Him, his mother, my sister, and my best friend. They're all in on it. Hank swore softly. Okay. That changes things. This isn't just fraud anymore. It's conspiracy to commit murder. We need hard evidence. Screenshots aren't enough, he can claim his phone was hacked. We need audio. We need video. We need them to confess on tape. How? Hank pulled a small, black box from his jacket pocket. This is a bug. High fidelity. Long battery life. Can you get it into his car? Or better yet, the room where they meet? They're meeting today, I said, my mind racing. The dress fitting. Jolene and Cassidy will be there. Trent usually waits in the car or comes in at the end to pay. Good. Plant it. Also. Hank pulled out a pen. This is a camera. Put it in your living room. Aim it at the couch where they sit to talk business. I took the devices. They felt heavy, like grenades. Mallory, Hank said, reaching out to touch my hand. His skin was rough like sandpaper. This is dangerous. If they suspect you now, they might accelerate the timeline. Are you sure you can do this? We can go to the cops now with what we have. No, I said firmly. If we go now, he might get off on a technicality. He might run and do this to someone else. I want him buried, Hank. I want all of them buried. Loretta, Jolene, Cassidy. I want them to lose everything. Hank nodded slowly, a grim smile touching his lips. You remind me of Rose. She was a tough broad. I have a plan, I said. They want my money? I'm going to dangle it in front of them. I'm going to make them so greedy they get sloppy. The pot of gold strategy, Hank mused. Classic. What's the bait? I'm going to tell them I'm inheriting another $2 million. But only if I'm married. Hank chuckled. That'll make Trent salivate. He won't touch a hair on your head until that check clears. Exactly. It buys us time. I stood up, clutching the folder and the devices. Thank you, Hank. Don't thank me yet, kid. Watch your back. And Mallory? Yeah. Don't eat or drink anything he gives you. Switch the plates. Switch the cups. I nodded. I thought about the tea this morning. I thought about the vitamins. I know, I said. I'm a pharmacist. I know how to spot a poison. I walked out of the diner, stepping back into the humid heat. I had the weapons. Now I just needed the battlefield. The bridal shop was waiting. The bridal salon was a sea of tulle, lace, and false expectations. Jolene was already there, squeezed into a mauve bridesmaid dress that was a size too small. Her pregnancy was starting to show, a slight bump that she tried to hide behind a bouquet of fake flowers. Cassidy was there too, looking bored, scrolling on her phone while wearing a matching dress that she had complained about for weeks. Finally! Cassidy snapped as I walked in. We've been waiting for 20 minutes. My feet hurt. Sorry, I said, putting on my best apologetic smile. Traffic was a nightmare. You both look stunning. Jolene forced a smile. Thanks, Mal. Are you feeling better? Trent said you were sick. Much better, I said, dropping my purse onto the sofa in the changing suite. I made sure the clasp was open. The small recording device Hank gave me positioned perfectly to catch the sound in the room. Actually, I have some amazing news. That's why I was running errands. Both of them looked up. Greed is a funny thing, it sharpens the features instantly. I got a call from the executor of Nana's estate, I lied, my voice breathless with excitement. Apparently, there was a separate trust fund. Oil royalties from land she owned in West Texas. It's been tied up in probate for years, but it just cleared. How much? Cassidy asked, sitting up straighter. $2 million, I whispered. The room went silent. I could practically hear the calculations whirring in their heads. Jolene's eyes widened. Cassidy licked her lips. But here's the kicker, I continued, pacing the room. The terms of the trust say it can only be released to me upon my marriage. It's Nana's way of ensuring I was settled. So, once Trent and I say I do, the money is ours. Does Trent know? Jolene asked, her voice tight. Not yet, I beamed. I want to surprise him tonight. Isn't it incredible? We can buy a vacation home. Maybe in Paris, Cassidy. We can finally go. Cassidy squealed and hugged me. It was a fake, suffocating hug. OMG, Mallory. That's amazing. You're the best sister ever. I know, I said, patting her back while staring at Jolene over her shoulder. And Jolene, I was thinking, since you've been so helpful, and since you're having financial struggles, once the money comes in, I want to give you a bonus. Maybe 10,000? Jolene's face fell. 10,000 was crumbs compared to 2 million. And she knew that if I married Trent, he would control that money. But she also realized something else. If Trent knew about the 2 million, he would never leave me for her. He would stick to me like glue. That's generous, Mal, Jolene choked out. Excuse me, I need to use the restroom. The dress is squeezing my bladder. She rushed into the changing stall and slammed the door. I smiled at Cassidy. I'll go get the consultant to help you with the hem. I walked out of the suite but stopped just around the corner. I pulled up my phone and connected to the bug I had left in my purse. I put in my earbuds. The audio was crystal clear. Rustling fabric. A zipper unzipping. Then, dialing tones. Pick up, you bastard, Jolene hissed. Hello? It was Trent's voice. Did you know? Jolene whispered furiously. Did you know about the oil money? What oil money? Jolene, I'm in a meeting, I can't. Mallory just told us. She's inheriting $2 million from an oil trust when she marries you. 2 million. Trent, you told me the house was worth 500 grand. This is 4 times that. Silence on the other end. Then, a low whistle. 2 million? Are you sure? Yes. She's giddy about it. Listen to me, Trent. I want half. If we're going to kill her, the price just went up. I'm carrying your child. I swear to God, if you cut me out of this deal, I will go to the police and tell them everything. Calm down, babe. Trent's voice was smooth, terrifyingly calm. This is good news. It just means the payout is bigger. Stick to the plan. Keep her happy. Make sure she signs the marriage license. Once that paper is signed, the money is community property. Then, we take our trip to Maui. I hate her, Jolene sobbed quietly. I hate watching her prance around like she owns you. She owns nothing, Trent said darkly. She's a walking ATM. And her PIN number is about to expire. I love you. Now wipe your face and go back out there. The call ended. I stood in the hallway, my blood boiling. I had it. The confession. If we're going to kill her. It was recorded. It was safe. But I wasn't done. I didn't just want to arrest them. I wanted to destroy them. I wanted to humiliate them in front of everyone they tried to impress. I walked back into the suite. Jolene was coming out of the stall, her eyes red, her makeup touched up. Everything okay? I asked sweetly. Yeah, Jolene managed a smile. Just happy tears for you, Mel. Ah, I said, reaching out to adjust a strap on her dress. I pulled it tight, digging into her shoulder. You're such a good friend, Jolene. I don't know what I'd do without you. I hope Trent appreciates you as much as I do. I saw the fear flicker in her eyes. She suspected something. But the greed blinded her. Let's get this dress fitted, I said. We have a wedding to execute. And oh, was I going to execute it? Just not the way they thought. I drove home from the bridal salon with a knot of adrenaline in my chest that felt like a clenched fist. The recording of Jolene and Trent was burning a hole in my purse. I had the confession. I had the proof that they viewed me as nothing more than livestock, fattened up for the slaughter. But I couldn't stop yet. I needed to solidify the trap. I needed Trent to be so blinded by the promise of the fictional oil money that he would unknowingly sign his own death warrant. When I walked into the townhouse, the atmosphere had shifted. Before, Trent had been playing the role of the doting fiancé with a hint of impatience. Now? He was practically vibrating with energy. He met me at the door, not with a kiss, but with a gaze that seemed to scan me for dollar signs. Jolene called me, he said, trying to keep his voice casual, though his eyes were wide. She mentioned something about Nana Rose's estate? Oil royalties? I kicked off my heels and let out a long, theatrical sigh of happiness. Oh, Trent. I can't believe I didn't tell you sooner. I honestly forgot about the old land trust until the lawyer called this morning. I thought it was worthless dust in West Texas. Turns out, they struck black gold. I walked into the kitchen and poured myself a glass of water, tap water, making sure he saw me get it myself so he couldn't spike it. $2 million, I whispered, turning to face him. Can you imagine? It changes everything. Trent licked his lips. It was a predatory, involuntary movement. That's incredible, babe. Truly. So, is the money in your account now? Not yet, I said, putting on a frown. That's the catch. The trustee is old school. Very religious. The trust stipulates that the funds can only be released to a settled woman. Meaning, I have to be legally married. And I paused, watching him closely. My husband has to sign an affidavit acknowledging that the funds are coming into the marriage. Basically, a reverse prenup. It just says you agree to accept the assets as community property. I'll sign it, he said instantly. Too fast. I mean, whatever we need to do to get access. I mean, to secure our future. I can have my lawyer look at it tonight. Your lawyer? I asked innocently. You mean Yvonne? I thought she only handled real estate? Trent stiffened. Right. Yeah. I meant. I can handle it. I know contracts. Great, I smiled. I told the trustee we would fax the signed affidavit tomorrow. That way, the check will be waiting for us when we get back from Hawaii. I could see the gears turning in his head. He was abandoning the plan to kill me immediately. Why kill me for a $500,000 house when he could wait a few weeks, secure the $2 million, and then stage the accident? Greed is a powerful motivator, but it also makes people stupid. Let's go out to celebrate, Trent said, grabbing his keys. Dinner. The steakhouse on Westheimer. My treat. Your treat? I teased. With whose card? With my bonus, he lied smoothly. I closed a big deal today. We went to dinner. It was a surreal performance. We sat in a dimly lit booth, eating expensive ribeyes. Trent held my hand across the table, his thumb stroking my knuckles. To anyone watching, we were a couple in love. But every time he smiled, I saw the text messages. Hiking trails. Slippery cliffs. So, he said, pouring more wine into my glass, which I pretended to sip but dumped into the planter box next to our booth when he looked away. This money. What do you want to do with it? We should invest it. You know, I can manage it for us. High-yield portfolios. I was thinking we should pay off my parents' mortgage, I said, testing him. And buy Cassidy that condo she wants. Trent's jaw clenched, but he forced a nod. Sure. Family first. But we need to secure our own retirement too. Maybe start a business. A business? I asked. Like what? Logistics, he said vaguely. Import-export. I have connections. I knew exactly what that meant. Money laundering. Or simply vanishing with the cash to a non-extradition country. That sounds smart, honey, I said. You're so good with money. That's why I trust you. He beamed, his ego stroking him like a pet cat. I just want to take care of you, Mallory. You've had a hard life. You deserve to rest. Rest in peace, he meant. Halfway through dessert, my phone buzzed. It was Hank. Don't eat the chocolate mousse. I analyzed the vitamins you gave me. Results are in. We need to talk. Urgent. I looked at the chocolate mousse Trent had just ordered for me. He was watching me with an intensity that made my skin crawl. Eat up, he urged. It's the best in the city. I'm so full, I said, pushing the plate away. Maybe we can take it to go? I want to get home and find that affidavit for you to sign. The promise of the document won out. He signaled for the check. As we walked out to the car, Trent put his arm around my waist, pulling me tight. I'm the luckiest man alive, he whispered into my ear. I shivered. I know, Trent. You really hit the jackpot. He didn't know the jackpot was a prison sentence. And he didn't know that the affidavit I was going to have him sign was actually a confession of financial intent that Hank had drafted, disguised as a trust document. By signing it, he would be admitting on paper that he was marrying me specifically for the assets. It wouldn't hold up in criminal court on its own, but combined with the tapes? It was the nail in the coffin. But first, I had to hear what Hank found in those vitamins. The next morning, I waited until Trent left for his office, which I now knew was likely a local gambling den or Jolene's apartment. As soon as his BMW turned the corner, I bolted. I met Hank in the parking lot of a pharmacy across town, not the one where I worked. We sat in his battered sedan, the air conditioning struggling against the Texas heat. Hank looked grimmer than usual. He handed me a lab report. I called in a favor with a buddy at the toxicology lab, Hank said, his voice gravelly. Those prenatal vitamins he's been giving you? They aren't vitamins. I looked at the chemical breakdown. My pharmaceutical training kicked in, translating the scientific names into terrifying realities. Benzodiazepines. Low-dose arsenic. I gasped, dropping the paper. Arsenic? He's poisoning me? Slowly, Hank nodded. The benzos keep you docile, confused, sleeping a lot. That explains why you were so out of it the night you had the dream. The arsenic, it builds up over time. Causes organ failure. Mimics natural causes if you don't look too closely. By the time you got to Hawaii, your system would be so weak that a slip on a hiking trail would look like dizziness or fatigue. I felt sick. Physically, violently sick. I had been taking those pills for 2 months. Trent insisted on it. For your skin and hair, babe. I want you glowing for the wedding. He had been killing me every single morning with a kiss and a glass of water. Am I? I touched my stomach. The levels are low, Hank assured me. You stopped taking them yesterday, right? Your liver will recover. But Mallory, this escalates the charge from conspiracy to attempted homicide. We have him, I whispered. We can arrest him now. We can, Hank agreed. But we still need to link the mother and the accomplices. If we take Trent down now, Loretta claims ignorance. Jolene claims she was just a mistress. Cassidy claims she was just a sister. Trent goes down alone, and he might not flip on them. No, I said, my voice hardening. I want them all. Loretta knew. In the trash can, she told him to make sure I took the vitamins. She called them meds. Hank nodded. Then we need to connect them. We need a recording of them discussing the poison. Or the money split. I have an idea, I said. Cassidy. She's the weak link. She's greedy, but she's also emotional and jealous. If she thinks she's being cut out. Divide and conquer, Hank smiled. I like it. What's the plan? I need you to Photoshop something for me, I said. Can you create a fake bank transfer? Showing a large sum of money going from Trent's account to Jolene's? Easy. And I need a photo, I continued. Do you have any surveillance shots of Trent and Jolene together? Something intimate? Hank reached into the back seat and pulled out a thick envelope. Take your pick. I got them at a motel off I-10 yesterday afternoon. I looked at the photos. They were grainy but undeniable. Trent and Jolene kissing. Trent handing Jolene a stack of cash. Perfect, I said. I devised a plan to send these to Cassidy anonymously. I would make it look like Trent was planning to run away with Jolene and the money, leaving Cassidy and Loretta with nothing. Be careful, Mallory, Hank warned. When rats turn on each other, they bite. Let them bite, I said. I'm wearing armor. I drove home, my mind racing. I stopped at a health food store and bought a bottle of real vitamins that looked exactly like the poison ones. I swapped the pills. When Trent came home that evening, I made a show of taking my vitamin right in front of him. Good girl, he said, watching me swallow. You look paler today. Maybe you should rest more. I'm fine, I said, looking him dead in the eye. Just a little headache. Probably the stress of all this money coming in. He smiled, but for the first time, I saw a flicker of doubt in his eyes. Maybe he sensed the shift. Maybe he realized the sheep was starting to bare its teeth. Later that night, while Trent was in the shower, I used a burner phone Hank gave me. I sent the photos of Trent and Jolene to Cassidy. I added a text, he's playing you. He's taking the money and the mistress to Mexico. You get nothing. Then I sat back on the couch, turned on the hidden camera Hank had installed in the living room plant, and waited for the fireworks. It didn't take long. Less than 20 minutes after I sent the text, there was a pounding on our front door. It wasn't a knock, it was an assault. Trent came running down the stairs, a towel around his waist, water dripping from his chest. What the hell is going on? I stayed seated on the couch, feigning confusion. I don't know. Someone is banging on the door. Trent opened it, and Cassidy pushed past him like a hurricane in designer heels. Her face was blotchy, her mascara running. She wasn't the polished princess today, she was a woman scorned. You liar, she screamed, shoving her phone into Trent's chest. You told me it was business. You told me she was just a pawn. Trent looked at the screen, the photo of him and Jolene at the motel, and his face drained of color. He looked at me, panic flaring in his eyes. Cassidy, calm down, he hissed, trying to steer her toward the kitchen, away from me. Mallory is right there. I don't care. Cassidy yelled, her voice echoing off the high ceilings. Let her hear. She's too stupid to understand anyway. I sat very still, my hands folded in my lap. Keep talking, Cassidy. The camera loves you. You promised me. Cassidy continued, sobbing now. You said once we got the house and the life insurance, you'd dump Jolene and we would go to Paris. You said I was the only one who really knew you. Trent slapped her. It was a sharp, brutal sound that silenced the room. Cassidy held her cheek, looking at him with shock. Shut up, Trent growled, his voice low and dangerous. You are hysterical. Go home. Don't you touch me. Cassidy shrieked. I'm the one who told you about the trust. I'm the one who gave you the keys to Nana's house so you could copy them. Without me, you'd still be sleeping in your car, Mark. Mark. She used his real name. I gasped loudly, standing up. What? Mark? Who is Mark? Trent spun around, his face shifting instantly from rage to his charming victim mask. Babe, ignore her. She's off her meds. She's having an episode. I am not crazy. Cassidy lunged at him, clawing at his chest. Tell her. Tell her about the plan. Tell her how you laughed about her awful cooking and her pathetic neediness. Tell her you're sleeping with her sister. Trent grabbed Cassidy's wrists and shoved her back against the wall. If you say one more word, Cassidy, the deal is off. You get 0. No Paris. No condo. Nothing. Cassidy stopped struggling. The threat of poverty silenced her faster than the slap. She looked at him, panting, then looked at me. Her eyes were cold, devoid of any sisterly love. You're pathetic, Mallory, she spat at me. You think he loves you? He loathes you. We all do. You're just a paycheck. She straightened her dress, glared at Trent, and stormed out the door. The silence left in her wake was heavy. Trent turned to me, his chest heaving. He looked terrified. He knew he had lost control of the narrative. Mallory, he started, walking toward me with his hands up. Please. You know how she is. She's jealous. She's always been jealous of you. She's making things up to hurt us. I looked at him. I saw the scratch marks on his chest where my sister had clawed him. I saw the desperation of a con man whose house of cards was trembling in the wind. I summoned every ounce of acting ability I possessed. I let tears well up in my eyes. I trembled. I don't know what to believe, Trent, I whispered. Why would she say those things? Why did she call you Mark? It's an ex-boyfriend of hers, he lied quickly. She confuses people when she's manic. Baby, look at me. I love you. Only you. We are about to be rich. We are about to be free. Don't let her poison this. I took a deep, shuddering breath. Okay. Okay. I trust you. He exhaled, pulling me into a hug. I rested my chin on his shoulder, looking directly at the blinking red light of the hidden camera in the plant. Gotcha. I'm sorry she ruined the night, Trent murmured into my hair. Let's just get through the rehearsal dinner tomorrow. Then the wedding. Then we're gone. Yes, I agreed. We'll be gone. But we weren't going to the same place. Later that night, I met Hank briefly in the alley behind the house to hand off the SD card from the camera. This is gold, Hank said, watching the footage on his tablet. Admitting to the key copying? The plan to kill you for insurance? The assault? We have enough to put them away for 20 years. Not yet, I said. The wedding is in 2 days. I want the grand finale. Mallory, you're playing with fire, Hank warned. He slapped her. He's violent. I know, I said. That's why I need you and your team at the church. Inside. Hidden. We'll be there, Hank promised. Armed. Good. Because I have a few gifts to give at the rehearsal dinner. I want to make sure they sleep uneasily tonight. The rehearsal dinner was held in the private room of an upscale seafood restaurant downtown. The table was set with white linens and crystal glasses. It looked elegant. It felt like a wake. Everyone was there. My parents sat at the head of the table, looking uncomfortable but eager to please Trent. Cassidy was there, wearing sunglasses to hide her bruised cheek, sullenly drinking a martini. Jolene was there, looking pale and nervous, sitting as far away from Cassidy as possible. Loretta sat next to Trent, looking like the cat that ate the canary, touching her diamond necklace, not the one Cassidy stole, but a new one Trent must have bought her to keep the peace. I sat next to Trent, wearing a white cocktail dress. I felt like a ghost haunting my own life. To the happy couple, my father toasted, raising his glass. Mallory, you've finally done something right. The table chuckled politely. A jab disguised as a joke. Standard operating procedure for my father. Thank you, Dad, I said, smiling tightly. I really have. Dinner was served. The conversation was strained. Cassidy refused to speak to anyone. Jolene kept checking her phone. Trent was drinking heavily, his leg bouncing nervously under the table. When dessert arrived, I stood up. I have a few gifts, I announced. I know we usually exchange gifts on the wedding morning, but I couldn't wait. I reached under the table and pulled out 3 gift bags. The room went silent. First, for my wonderful mother-in-law, I said, handing a bag to Loretta. Loretta smiled her shark smile and opened it. She pulled out a framed photo. It was an old black and white picture I had found in the public records, a mugshot of Loretta from the 90s for check fraud. Loretta's face froze. It's a vintage photo I found, I said innocently. You look so young there, Loretta. It reminds me that we all have pasts, doesn't it? Loretta shoved the photo back into the bag, her face turning purple. How thoughtful, she choked out. And for my maid of honor, I said, handing a small box to Jolene. Jolene opened it. Inside were a pair of baby shoes. Blue ones. She dropped the box. It clattered onto the china plate. I don't understand, Jolene stammered, looking at Trent in panic. Oh, just a feeling. I chirped. I had a dream you were going to start a family soon. Maybe with someone tall, dark, and married? The air in the room was sucked out. Trent stared at me, his glass of scotch halfway to his mouth. He was trying to figure out if I knew, or if I was just incredibly lucky with my guesses. And finally, I said, turning to Trent. For my groom. I handed him a long, slender box. He took it warily. He opened it. Inside was a watch. But not just any watch. It was a waterproof diving watch. I had engraved the back. "Read the inscription, honey," I urged. Trent turned it over. His eyes narrowed. June 14th, 2018. She didn't slip. It was the date his second wife died in Arizona. Trent turned white. Translucent. He looked at me, and for the first time, the mask dropped completely. There was no charm. No love. Just pure, unadulterated fear. I love it," he stammered, his voice cracking. "But what does the date mean?" "It's the date we met," I lied smoothly. In my heart. "Don't you remember?" "It wasn't the date we met. We met 2 years ago. June 14th, 2018, was 5 years ago." He knew I knew. But he couldn't say anything without exposing himself in front of my parents. "Right," he swallowed hard. "Right. Of course. I just want us to have no secrets," I said, scanning the table. "I feel like we all know each other so well now." "Cassidy, how is your cheek?" Cassidy flinched. "It's fine." I walked into a door. "You should be careful," I said. "Doors can be dangerous. Especially when they slam shut on you." My mother looked confused. "Mallory, you're acting very strange tonight." "Am I?" I laughed, a sound that bordered on hysterical. "I'm just happy, Mom. Tomorrow is the big day. The day everything changes. The day everyone gets exactly what they deserve." I raised my glass. To karma. Trent didn't drink. Neither did Loretta. Jolene looked like she was going to be sick. Cassidy just stared at the table. The rest of the dinner passed in agonizing silence. As we left the restaurant, Trent grabbed my arm. His grip was bruising. "What was that back there?" he hissed. "The watch? The photo?" "Just sentimental gifts," I said, pulling my arm away. "You're hurting me, Trent." "You're up to something," he snarled. "If you try to back out, if you try to embarrass me." "I wouldn't dream of it," I said, looking him in the eye. "I'll see you at the altar, Mark." I slipped up. I used the name Cassidy had screamed. Trent froze. "My name is Trent." "Right. Trent. Sorry." Slip of the tongue. I got into my car and locked the doors before he could say another word. As I drove away, I saw him standing on the sidewalk, looking like a cornered animal. He should have run then. He should have taken his mother and his mistress and fled the state. But narcissists never run. They think they can outsmart everyone. He thought he could still salvage the con. He thought he could intimidate me into submission. He was wrong. The morning of the wedding was gray and overcast. Typical Houston weather. The humidity pressed against the windows of the bridal suite at the church. I sat in the chair while the makeup artist applied layers of foundation. I looked calm. My hands were steady. Inside, I was a coiled spring. Jolene was in the corner, steaming my veil. She looked terrible. Puffy eyes, pale skin. She hadn't slept. Neither had I, but adrenaline is a powerful drug. "Mallory," Jolene said softly, not looking at me. "About last night, the baby shoes." "It was just a joke, Joe," I said, checking my phone. A text from Hank, "Team is in position. Cameras are rolling. Don't let him get you alone." "Right," Jolene sniffled. "A joke." Cassidy walked in, slamming the door. She was wearing her bridesmaid dress, but she had refused to cover the bruise on her cheek with makeup. She wanted people to ask. She wanted attention. Mom is crying in the hallway, Cassidy announced. She says she has a bad feeling. Mom always makes it about her, I said dryly. You're really going through with this? Cassidy asked, looking at me with a strange expression. Was it pity? Or just disbelief? After everything? Especially after everything, I said. My father came in to walk me down the aisle. He looked handsome in his tux, but his eyes were distant. He was thinking about the reception, about the open bar, about the image of the perfect family. You look beautiful, Mal, he said perfunctorily. Trent is a lucky man. Dad, I asked suddenly. Do you love me? He blinked, surprised. Of course. You're my daughter. Do you love me more than the money? What kind of question is that? He blustered. This wedding is costing a fortune, Mallory. Don't start with the drama. Okay, I said. Just checking. I stood up. The dress was heavy. Satin and lace, a gown fit for a princess. Or a sacrifice. We walked to the sanctuary doors. The organ music swelled. Here comes the bride. The doors opened. The church was full. 200 guests. My co-workers from the pharmacy. Trent's business associates, who I now suspected were other con artists or loan sharks. Loretta was in the front row, wearing a silver dress that looked like chainmail, clutching a handkerchief. And there, at the end of the aisle, stood Trent. He looked impeccable. Tuxedo, bow tie, hair gelled back. He was smiling, but his eyes were darting around the room, scanning the exits. When he saw me, his smile widened, but it didn't reach his eyes. It was a baring of teeth. I walked down the aisle. Every step felt like a drumbeat of war. Step. For the money I stole from my savings to pay his debts. Step. For the nights I spent crying, thinking I wasn't good enough. Step. For Nana Rose, who warned me. Step. For the wife in Arizona who didn't slip. I reached the altar. Trent reached out to take my hand. His palm was clammy. You look breathtaking, he whispered. Let's get this over with. Patience, darling, I whispered back. The priest began the ceremony. Dearly beloved, we are gathered here today. I zoned out, watching the stained glass window above the altar. I was waiting for the question. The only question that mattered. The priest droned on about love, faithfulness, and honesty. The irony was thick enough to choke on. Jolene was sniffing loudly behind me. Cassidy was shifting her weight. Finally, the priest looked out at the congregation. If anyone here has any just cause why these two should not be joined in holy matrimony, speak now or forever hold your peace. Usually, there is a silence here. A heartbeat of quiet before the ceremony continues. But today, silence wasn't on the guest list. I didn't wait for anyone else. I didn't look at the crowd. I pulled my hand away from Trent's. I turned to the priest. I grabbed the microphone from the stand. The feedback squeal pierced the air, making everyone jump. I do, I said, my voice booming through the speakers. I have a cause. Trent's face dropped. Mallory, what are you doing? I'm objecting to my own wedding, I said, turning to face the crowd. I looked at my parents, shocked in the front row. I looked at Loretta, who was starting to stand up. Sit down, Loretta, I commanded. Unless you want to be arrested right now. Loretta froze. I looked at Trent. You wanted the house, Trent? You wanted the $2 million? You wanted the life insurance? Mallory, you're having a breakdown, Trent hissed, reaching for the mic. Stop this. I sidestepped him. Hank, roll the tape. Above the altar, a large projection screen began to lower. It was meant for a slideshow of our childhood photos. Instead, the lights in the church dimmed, and a video flickered to life. The video started. It wasn't grainy surveillance footage. It was high-definition 4K video, courtesy of the camera Hank had installed in my living room. The sound of Cassidy screaming filled the church. "You promised me. You said once we got the house and the life insurance, you'd dump Jolene. You said I was the only one who really knew you." The crowd gasped. A collective intake of breath that sucked the oxygen out of the room. On screen, Trent's face was twisted in rage. He slapped Cassidy. The sound of the slap echoed through the sanctuary speakers like a gunshot. My mother screamed. My father stood up, his face turning purple. "That's my daughter. He hit my daughter." The video cut to the next clip. The phone call in the dressing room. Jolene's voice was unmistakable. "If we're going to kill her, the price just went up. I'm carrying your child. We need to keep her happy until the house is signed over. After the wedding, well, we can deal with the extra baggage then." Jolene, standing behind me, let out a wail and collapsed onto the steps of the altar. She didn't faint, she just crumpled under the weight of her own exposure. The video cut again. This time it was Loretta, taken from a long-range microphone Hank had used outside her house. "Make sure the accident looks genuine. Hiking trails in Hawaii are dangerous." The video ended. The screen went black. The silence in the church was absolute. It was the silence of 200 people realizing they were witnessing a crime scene, not a wedding. I turned to Trent. He wasn't moving. He was staring at the blank screen, his mouth slightly open. He looked like a man who had just watched his own execution. "Surprise," I said softly. Trent slowly turned his head to look at me. His eyes were no longer human. They were the eyes of a trapped rat. "You bitch," he whispered. "You set me up." "You set yourself up," I replied. "You were just too greedy to see the trap. You ruined everything." Loretta shrieked from the front row. She lunged toward me, her fake nails hooked like talons. "My son is a good boy. You manipulated him. Sit down." Hank's voice boomed from the back of the church. He stepped out from behind a pillar, wearing a security vest, flanked by 4 uniformed police officers. "Everyone stay where you are," Hank shouted. But Trent wasn't staying. The fight-or-flight response kicked in. He realized the game was over. The money was gone. The reputation was destroyed. Prison was waiting. He looked at the side exit. Blocked by a groomsman who looked confused but big. He looked at the main aisle. Blocked by the police. He looked at me. And he snapped. "I'll kill you," he roared. He didn't run away. He lunged at me. He reached into the inner pocket of his tuxedo jacket. I thought he was reaching for a gun. But it was a knife, a sleek, silver switchblade. He must have carried it for protection or intimidation. The blade clicked open. "Trent, no!" Jolene screamed from the floor. Trent grabbed my arm, spinning me around. He pressed the knife against my throat. His arm was like a steel bar across my chest. "Back off," he screamed at the cops. "Back off or I slit her throat right here in front of Jesus and everyone." The crowd screamed. People were diving under pews. My mother was sobbing hysterically. I felt the cold metal against my skin. I smelled his sweat, fear, and expensive cologne. "Let her go, Mark!" Hank shouted, his gun drawn but pointed low. "There's nowhere to go. I'm walking out of here with her," Trent yelled, dragging me backward toward the sacristy door. "Anyone follows, she bleeds." I couldn't breathe. His grip was cutting off my air. But strangely, I wasn't afraid. I had watched this man sleep. I had washed his clothes. I knew his weakness. He was arrogant. He thought I was helpless. I remembered a self-defense class Nana Rose made me take when I went off to college. If a man grabs you from behind, Mallory, don't pull away. Step in. I waited. He was distracted, yelling at the police. Step in. The knife dug into my skin, drawing a thin line of blood. A collective shriek rose from the pews as the crimson drop stained the white lace of my neckline. Trent was panting against my ear, his heart hammering against my back like a trapped bird. Open the side door, he screamed at the priest, who was cowering behind the altar. Open it now! Mark, look at me, Hank said calmly, stepping forward slowly. You don't want to add murder to the list. You're looking at fraud, maybe conspiracy. You can walk away from that in 10 years. You kill her? Texas has the death penalty, son. I'm dead anyway. Trent spat. She ruined me. He tightened his grip. My vision started to spot. I knew I had seconds. I shifted my weight. I stomped my heel, my 3-inch stiletto heel, down onto his instep with every ounce of force I possessed. Trent howled in pain. His grip loosened for a fraction of a second. I didn't pull away. I threw my head back, slamming my skull into his nose. I heard a sickening crunch. Trent staggered back, blood spurting from his nose, momentarily blinded by the pain. The knife wavered. I spun around, adrenaline surging through my veins, and kicked him in the groin. Hard. He crumpled to his knees, dropping the knife. He clutched himself, wheezing, blood dripping from his face onto the pristine church carpet. I stood over him. My veil was torn. My neck was bleeding. I picked up the knife he dropped. I didn't use it. I just held it, looking down at the man who had promised to love, cherish, and murder me. You didn't ruin me, Trent, I said, my voice shaking but loud enough for everyone to hear. You just underestimated me. Hank and the officers swarmed him. They kicked the knife away from my hand and pinned Trent to the ground. The sound of handcuffs clicking shut was the sweetest music I had ever heard. Get off me! Trent screamed, his face pressed into the carpet. She's lying. The video is fake. It's AI. It's a deep fake. Tell it to the judge, scumbag, an officer said, hauling him up. I looked out at the congregation. My parents were staring at me as if I were a stranger. Cassidy was pale as a sheet. Jolene was still sobbing on the floor. Loretta was being handcuffed by another officer near the front pew. It was chaos. It was destruction. It was beautiful. I took a deep breath, the adrenaline starting to fade, replaced by a trembling in my legs. I touched my neck. The blood was real. The danger had been real. But I was still standing. If you are still listening to this, and you are on the edge of your seat, please take a second to hit that like button and comment the number 1 below. Let me know you're with me. Let me know you support women fighting back against the monsters in their lives. Your support means the world to me, and it helps me share this story with others who might need a warning. Comment 1 now, and let's finish this. I watched as they dragged Trent down the aisle. He passed my father, who looked at him with pure hatred. He passed his business associates, who were already sneaking out the back door. But before they took him out, Trent stopped resisting. He looked back at me one last time. Who are you? He asked, his voice broken. You're not the Mallory I knew. No, I said. That Mallory died the night she found you in the trash can. I'm the one who survived. They shoved him through the doors. The church was silent again. Then, slowly, from the back of the room, someone started clapping. It was Hank. Then a coworker from the pharmacy joined in. Then another. Soon, half the room was applauding. Not for the wedding, but for the show. For the justice. But I didn't want applause. I wanted answers from the people who were supposed to protect me. I walked down the steps of the altar and stood in front of my parents and Cassidy. Well, I said, wiping a smear of blood from my neck. Who wants to explain why Cassidy knew about the affair and said nothing? The police were busy corralling the criminals. Loretta was screeching about her rights, demanding her lawyer, who, ironically, was also being arrested in the parking lot where she had been waiting in her car. Yvonne hadn't expected Hank to have a warrant for her too. But my focus was on the family bench. My mother was weeping into a handkerchief. Mallory, oh my God, are you okay? Your neck. Don't touch me, I said, stepping back as she reached for me. Cassidy. Stand up. Cassidy stood up slowly. She looked small. The bravado, the arrogance, the princess attitude, it was all gone. She looked like a child caught stealing candy. I didn't know he was going to kill you, she whispered. I swear, Mal. I thought he was just going to divorce you and take half the money. I just wanted the trip. I just wanted to be included. You wanted to be included in robbing your sister? I asked, my voice deadly calm. You slept with my fiancé. He seduced me. Cassidy cried. He told me I was the pretty one. He told me you were boring and frigid. And you believed him because you wanted to believe him, I said. Because you've always hated that I was the one Nana chose. Because you act like you're perfect. Cassidy shouted, her jealousy flaring up one last time. You have the house, the job, the money. I have nothing. You have nothing because you do nothing, I snapped. And now, you truly have nothing. Because the Bank of Mallory is closed. Forever. I turned to my parents. Did you know? No. My father insisted, looking horrified. Mallory, we had no idea about the murder plot. Or the affair. We just thought, well, we thought you should help your sister. You thought I should be her doormat, I corrected. You enabled this. You raised her to think she was entitled to everything I worked for. Well, congratulations. You created a monster. Just then, an officer approached. Ms. Jenkins? We need you to come to the station to give a statement. We have the suspects in custody. I'll be there, I said. I looked at Jolene, who was being helped up by a paramedic. She looked at me with pleading eyes. Mal, the baby. Not my problem, Jolene, I said coldly. Ask Trent for child support. Oh wait, he'll be making 10 cents an hour stamping license plates. I walked out of the church. I didn't look back at the altar. I didn't look back at the flowers. I walked out into the humid Houston air, and for the first time in months, I could breathe. The rain had stopped. The sun was trying to peek through the clouds. Hank was waiting by his car. He grinned at me. You got a hell of a right hook, kid. Nana Rose taught me well, I said, touching my nose which was throbbing slightly from the impact of the headbutt. You okay? I will be, I said. Did you get Yvonne? Picked her up in the lot. She had a bag full of shredded documents in her trunk. We'll piece them together. Between the video, the forged deed you found in the trash, the toxicology report, and the confession, they're done. RICO charges. Conspiracy to commit capital murder. Fraud. Identity theft. How long? I asked. Trent? 20 to life. Loretta? 15. Jolene, maybe 5, since she cooperated a bit at the end by panicking, but she's an accessory. And your sister? She wasn't on the murder chat, I said, feeling a pang of unwanted pity. She was just on the theft chat. Still a felony, Hank shrugged. But since she's family, do you want to press charges for the theft of the necklace and conspiracy to defraud? I looked back at the church doors. I saw my parents helping Cassidy walk out. They looked broken. Old. No, I said. Let her go. Her punishment is living a life where she has to work for the first time. And knowing that I know. You're kinder than me, Hank grunted. Not kind, I said. Just done. I'm cutting them off. No contact. That's a worse punishment for them. They lose their ATM. I got into my car. My wedding dress was ruined, stained with blood and dirt. I took the veil off and threw it in the back seat. I drove to the police station. I gave my statement. I handed over the SD cards, the pills, the fake deed. By the time I left, it was evening. I drove to the one place I wanted to go. Not to the townhouse, I would sell that. Not to my parents. I drove to Nana Rose's old Victorian house. My house. I walked inside. It was quiet. Dust motes danced in the light of the setting sun. I sat on the floor of the living room, still in my bloodied wedding dress. And finally, I cried. Not tears of sadness. Tears of release. It was over. The wolves were caged. The sheep had survived. The next few months were a blur of legal depositions and court hearings. I became the star witness in the wedding day murder plot trial. It was all over the news. The pharmacist who outsmarted the con man. Trent tried to plead insanity. It didn't work. The video was too damning. The toxicology report was irrefutable. He was sentenced to 25 years without parole. Loretta got 15. It turned out she had done this before with another son in Florida who was currently in jail. It was a family business. Jolene took a plea deal. She testified against Trent in exchange for a reduced sentence of 2 years probation and community service. She had the baby, a boy. She named him Mark, after his father. I heard she moved back in with her parents in Oklahoma. I never spoke to her again. Cassidy was a different story. My parents tried to guilt-trip me into reconciling. She's your sister, my mother cried on my voicemail. I had blocked their numbers, but they found ways to call. She made a mistake. Sleeping with my fiancé and plotting to steal my house isn't a mistake, Mom, I said when I finally answered one day. It's a character flaw. I stuck to my guns. I cut them off financially. No more tuition. No more loans. My parents had to refinance their house to pay for Cassidy's lifestyle, and when that money ran out, Cassidy had to get a job. I heard she was working as a hostess at a chain restaurant. It was honest work. It was good for her. As for me, I couldn't stay in Houston. The city was tainted. Everywhere I went, people recognized me. Aren't you the bride who kicked the groom? I sold the townhouse. I sold the engagement ring, which turned out to be a cubic zirconia, of course it was. But Nana Rose's house, that was harder. It was my legacy. But it was also the target. It was the reason they hunted me. I decided to sell it. I found a lovely young couple with 3 kids who wanted to restore it. They reminded me of what a family should be. I took the money from the sale, plus my savings, and I looked at a map. I wanted rain. I wanted green. I wanted somewhere far away from the humidity and the memories of Texas. Seattle. I packed my life into a U-Haul. Hank helped me load the boxes. You going to be okay up there, kid? He asked, leaning against his truck. I think so, I said. I found a pharmacy that's hiring. And I'm looking into going back to school. Maybe toxicology. I seem to have a knack for it. Hank laughed. You certainly do. Here. He handed me a small box. Wedding present. A bit late. I opened it. It was a pepper spray keychain and a taser. Hank. I laughed. Just in case, he winked. Stay safe, Mallory. I will. Thank you for saving my life. You saved yourself, he said. I just provided the soundtrack. I hugged him. He was the father figure I wished I had. I drove north. Mile by mile, the weight on my chest lifted. I was leaving behind the betrayal, the pain, the family that didn't love me. I was driving toward a future that was entirely mine. 1 year later. The air in Seattle is crisp, smelling of pine and sea salt. I love it here. I love the rain. It feels cleansing, unlike the suffocating storms of Houston. I opened my own small compounding pharmacy in a quiet neighborhood. I call it Rose Apothecary, after Nana. It's doing well. I have regular customers who know my name, who ask about my day, who bring me cookies. Real cookies, not poisoned ones. I live in a small apartment with a view of the Sound. It's not a mansion. It's not a Victorian estate. But it's mine. My name is on the lease. My money pays the rent. I haven't dated. Not yet. I'm taking my time. I'm learning to trust myself again. I'm learning to listen to my gut. Sometimes, I still have nightmares. I see Trent's face. I feel the knife. But then I wake up, and I realize I'm safe. I have Hank's taser on my nightstand, just in case. Last night, I had another dream about Nana Rose. We were sitting on the porch of the old house, but it wasn't dark or scary. The sun was shining. She was drinking iced tea. You did good, Mallory, she said, rocking in her chair. You cleaned house. I lost everyone, Nana, I said in the dream. Mom, Dad, Cassidy, Jolene. You didn't lose them, honey, she smiled. You just took out the trash. Now you have room for better things. She pointed to the garden. Flowers were blooming everywhere. Resilient, wild, beautiful flowers. I woke up smiling. I made coffee. I sat by the window and watched the ferries cross the water. My phone buzzed. An unknown number. I let it go to voicemail. I don't answer unknown numbers anymore. Later, I listened to it. It was Cassidy. Hey, Mel. It's me. I just wanted to say. Happy birthday. I know you probably won't call back. I'm manager at the restaurant now. I'm saving up for my own apartment. It's hard. But I guess I deserve it. Anyway, I miss you. I didn't delete the message. But I didn't call back either. Maybe one day. Maybe in 5 years. But not today. Today, I have a business to run. I have a life to live. I grabbed my coat and walked out into the cool morning air. I took a deep breath. My name is Mallory. I was a victim. Then I was a survivor. Now, I'm just free. And let me tell you, freedom tastes better than any $2 million inheritance ever could. Thank you for listening to my story. If you made it this far, you are a warrior too. Don't ignore the red flags. Don't ignore your gut. And never, ever underestimate a woman who has nothing left to lose. Stay safe out there. As the story of Mallory's resilience comes to a close, it leaves us with a profound reminder: strength is often born in the darkest moments, and self-worth is the foundation upon which true freedom is built. Her journey teaches us that betrayal, no matter how devastating, can become a catalyst for transformation. Mallory found courage not just in survival but in reclaiming her life, proving that even when surrounded by deceit and manipulation, the power to rise above lies within us. This story also highlights the importance of trusting our instincts and recognizing our own value. Too often, we ignore the warning signs, dismissing them as paranoia or fear. But as Mallory's grandmother wisely said, tears are for grieving. Action is for living. Facing adversity with determination and clarity allows us to not only overcome but to thrive. What about you? What lessons did this story awaken in your heart? Share your thoughts below or simply comment good if this reflection resonated with you. Let's celebrate resilience and the courage to walk away from what no longer serves us.